The discovery. The grand archives of the Galactic Historical Society stretched across an entire asteroid, hollowed out and transformed into the most comprehensive repository of knowledge in the known universe. Crystalline data cores pulsed with the collected histories of over 3,000 sentient species, each one meticulously catalogued and cross-referenced through the Society's quantum network. Dr. Lysandra Viridian floated through the main research chamber, her four arms manipulating the holographic interface with practiced ease. As the lead xenohistorian specializing in conflict studies, she had spent the last 73 cycles analyzing warfare patterns across civilizations. The Atheridian researcher's chromatophores rippled with excitement across her blue skin. Something in the data wasn't adding up. Archival assistant, she called out, cross-reference survival rates of civilizations following major military defeats, sorted by species classification. The chamber's ambient lighting dimmed as the holographic display expanded around her. Thousands of data points appeared, clustering naturally into distinct patterns that any historian could recognize. Species that suffered catastrophic defeats typically followed predictable trajectories: extinction, assimilation, technological regression, or generational recovery. But there, at the very edge of the visualization, was an anomaly so stark it seemed almost like a processing error. "Magnify outlier cluster," Viridian commanded, her voice barely containing the academic excitement that had defined her 3-century career. The display zoomed into a collection of data points that defied all established patterns. The labels simply read, Terra, human. "That can't be right," muttered Dr. Claxthrep, her Vexillian colleague who had wandered over from his own research station. His crystalline exoskeleton clicked softly as he examined the data. The pattern suggests that humans have never experienced conventional defeat trajectories following major military setbacks. That's statistically impossible. And yet the data is verified across 17 independent archival sources, Viridian replied. Humans appear to have transformed what should have been extinction-level defeats into adaptation opportunities. The implications were staggering. Every sentient species documented in galactic history followed predictable patterns after devastating losses. The Prometheans had never recovered after the loss of the Seven Suns. The once mighty Xyrillian Empire had regressed to pre-spaceflight technology after their defeat in the Andromeda campaign. Even the hyper-adaptive Morven Collective had required 8 generations to rebuild after the Cascade War. But humans showed no such pattern. Viridian initiated a deeper analysis, pulling historical records from Earth's own archives, records that few xenohistorians had bothered to study in detail, considering humanity's relatively recent arrival on the galactic stage. Archival assistant, display Earth conflict pattern. World War I, European theater, she commanded. The holographic display shifted to show the early stages of the conflict, with human nations facing overwhelming force and devastating losses. By all conventional metrics, several human nations should have collapsed entirely, noted Claxthrep. Their industrial centers were destroyed, supply lines severed, cities reduced to rubble. Yet they not only survived but emerged stronger. Viridian finished. Computer, display technological advancement rates during this conflict. The new visualization was even more shocking. Innovation rates had accelerated dramatically during the period of greatest existential threat. Far from collapsing, human ingenuity had flourished under pressure. "This is an aberration," Claxthrep insisted. "Perhaps a statistical anomaly specific to this conflict." "Let's see," Viridian replied. "Computer, analyze all major human conflicts where conventional defeat conditions were met, and display subsequent societal trajectories." The holographic display exploded with data points, covering thousands of years of human history. From ancient civilizations to modern nations, the pattern remained consistent. What should have been civilization-ending defeats became transformative events. Cities reduced to ash were rebuilt larger and stronger. Destroyed industries were replaced with more advanced facilities. Lost territories became staging grounds for revolutionary new strategies. This defies all known historical patterns, whispered Viridian, her chromatophores pulsing with deep purple waves of astonishment. It's as if humans don't acknowledge defeat as a permanent condition. By now, their discovery had attracted attention. Other historians from various species had gathered around the display, their reactions ranging from academic skepticism to distinct unease. Perhaps their historical records are propaganda, suggested Devinda, an avian historian from the Strix Confederacy. Many species mythologize their histories. I've accounted for that, Viridian replied. These analyses use empirical measurements, industrial output, technological advancement rates, population recovery, territorial control. The pattern remains consistent across multiple independent data sources. The implications were beginning to sink in throughout the chamber. The Galactic Historical Society prided itself on identifying patterns that helped predict the rise and fall of civilizations. Their models had successfully forecast the outcomes of conflicts for millennia. But humans operated outside these models entirely. We need to convene a full academic council, announced Dr. Gorskin, the ancient Tellurian who served as chief historian. His gravelly voice betrayed concern beyond mere academic interest. If this pattern is verified, it has significant implications for outside the archive's viewports. Distant Earth was barely visible as a pale blue dot among countless stars, unassuming, easily overlooked. But Viridian now understood that appearances were deceiving. That small world had produced something the galaxy had never seen before, a species that had never truly lost a war. The implications. The Grand Chamber of the Galactic Council was designed to inspire awe. Carved from a single massive crystal of Arctelian quartz, its faceted surfaces reflected light in patterns that subtly shifted to match the emotional tenor of proceedings. Today, those patterns rippled with tension as representatives from 17 major galactic powers assembled to hear Dr. Viridian's presentation. High Counselor Zach Snar, the imposing representative of the hegemony of United Systems, called the session to order. His 12 eyes, arranged in perfect symmetry across his cephalic ridge, surveyed the chamber with evident concern. We have convened this extraordinary session to address findings from the Galactic Historical Society that may have significant security implications. His voice resonated through the chamber's perfect acoustics. Dr. Lysandra Viridian, you have the floor. Viridian had prepared extensively for this moment. As a researcher, she had never anticipated addressing the highest political body in known space, but her discovery demanded nothing less. Esteemed counselors, she began, our comprehensive analysis of human historical patterns reveals an unprecedented trait. When faced with what our models classify as catastrophic defeat scenarios, humans demonstrate unique adaptive responses that transform existential threats into evolutionary advantages. The chamber's lighting shifted subtly as she initiated her holographic presentation, displaying comparative species response models. When the Citraki Imperium lost their primary industrial worlds during the Spiral Arm conflict, they experienced a 94% reduction in technological development, requiring 7 generations to recover pre-war capabilities. She explained, showing the familiar decline and recovery pattern. This represents the typical species response to severe military defeat. She then shifted the display to Earth's history. By contrast, when human nations experienced similar devastation during their Second World War, they demonstrated a 327% increase in technological innovation during the conflict itself. What should have been civilization-ending destruction instead catalyzed unprecedented advancement. Murmurs spread through the chamber as the implications became clear. This is not an isolated example, Viridian continued. Our analysis identified this pattern across 2,731 discrete conflicts throughout human history. The greater the existential threat, the more pronounced their adaptive response. The Novarian representative, a being of pure energy contained within an ornate mechanical frame, pulsed with agitation. What you described violates fundamental principles of civilizational development theory. Yes, Viridian acknowledged, which is why we've termed this the human anomaly. It appears to operate through three interconnected mechanisms. She displayed a new model showing neural, cultural, and technological dimensions of human adaptation. First, their neural structures demonstrate exceptional plasticity under threat conditions. Second, their social systems rapidly reorganize to maximize innovation when conventional structures fail. Third, they possess a psychological framework that consistently transforms defeat narratives into evolutionary imperatives. The chamber had grown deathly silent. Most significantly, she added, this trait operates at both individual and collective scales. From single humans facing personal crises to entire civilizations facing extinction, the pattern remains consistent. They transform terminal conditions into transitional states. Ambassador Threll of the Veteran Confederacy, known for his military expertise, leaned forward. Are you suggesting humans are effectively unbeatable? Not precisely, Viridian clarified. They can be defeated in conventional terms. However, our models indicate they cannot be permanently subjugated or destroyed through conventional means. Each defeat appears to seed the conditions for a more advanced resurgence. To illustrate, she displayed the historical trajectory of human nations occupied by superior forces. In each case, occupation had triggered underground resistance, accelerated innovation, and eventually led to the occupier's expulsion, often leaving the formerly occupied nation stronger than before. This is most evident in their colonization history, she explained. When human colonies have been cut off from Earth support, situations that would doom most species outposts, they've consistently developed independent innovation paths, sometimes surpassing their homeworld's technology. High Counselor Zaxnar's voice cut through the growing tension. What are the security implications? Viridian hesitated, knowing her answer would reshape galactic policy toward humanity. Based on historical pattern analysis, our models predict with 97.3% confidence that conventional containment strategies would be counterproductive if applied to humans. Attempts to limit human expansion through military action would likely accelerate their advancement and unify their otherwise fractious societies. The implications hung in the air like a gathering storm. Furthermore, she continued, we've identified a concerning correlation. The severity of threat directly proportional to the magnitude of their adaptive response. In simple terms, the harder you strike at humans, the stronger they become. The chamber erupted in voices, many demanding immediate security measures against human expansion. Others called for diplomatic engagement from a position of strength. Amidst the chaos, an unexpected voice cut through the chamber. Ambassador Kalen, the human representative who had been granted observer status for this session, stood calmly at his place. If I may address the council, he requested. After a moment's hesitation, Zaxnar granted permission. Distinguished representatives, Kalen began, his voice steady. I find myself in the unusual position of learning about my own species through alien eyes. Dr. Viridian's analysis is fascinating and not entirely inaccurate. He moved to the center of the chamber, his unassuming human form seeming almost fragile among the varied alien physiologies. But there's a critical element missing from this analysis. Humans don't seek conflict. We don't desire conquest. What Dr. Viridian has identified isn't a weapon. It's a survival mechanism born from thousands of years struggling on a single, often hostile world. The chamber had quieted, all attention on the human. Yes, we transform defeats into opportunities, but our greatest achievements have come through cooperation, not conflict. The same adaptive capacity that serves us in war has built wonders in peace. As if on cue, the chamber's communication system activated with an urgent message. Displays showed Galactic Defense Force alerts. A flotilla of unidentified vessels had breached the secure perimeter around the Council system. We are tracking 8 vessels of unknown configuration, reported the security chief. They've disabled 2 patrol cruisers and are advancing toward the Council station. Chaos erupted as councilors demanded immediate evacuation protocols. Security forces mobilized throughout the station. In the confusion, Ambassador Kalen approached Dr. Viridian directly. "It appears we'll have a chance to test your theory," he said quietly. "What do you mean?" she asked, her chromatophores pulsing with alarm. "You've studied our history," Kalen replied. "Now you'll witness our response firsthand." What followed demonstrated Viridian's theories with startling clarity, as the unknown vessels, later identified as a separatist faction of the Draconian collective, launched their attack on the Council station. The human response defied all conventional protocols. Rather than retreating to secure areas with other diplomatic personnel, Ambassador Kalen and his small staff of 5 humans immediately reported to the station's Defense Coordination Center. Within minutes, they had identified critical vulnerabilities in the attacker's approach vector that the Council's defensive AI had missed. When communications were severed by Draconian jammers, the humans improvised a new communication system using maintenance drones and repurposed entertainment frequencies. When shield generators began failing, they manually rerouted power through secondary systems never designed for defensive operations. Each setback became an opportunity for improvisation. Each failure sparked an innovative solution. Dr. Viridian observed it all, her scientific detachment giving way to awe as her theoretical models played out in real time. The humans didn't just fight. They adapted, improvised, transformed. Their neural cultural technological mechanism was operating precisely as her models had predicted. 6 hours after the attack began, the Draconian vessels retreated, their carefully planned assault unraveled by defensive measures they could never have anticipated. The Council station, while damaged, had held. In the aftermath, Dr. Viridian found Ambassador Kalen in a makeshift coordination center, directing human engineers who were already improving the station's defensive systems. "Now you understand," he said, noticing her approach. "This is who we are." "You knew the attack was coming," Viridian realized. "That's why you were so calm." Kalen shook his head. "No, I was calm because we faced the unknown before. It's where humans perform at their best." 3 days later, the subdued Galactic Council reconvened. The attack had changed the tenor of the discussion. Dr. Viridian's theoretical warnings had become demonstrable reality. In light of recent events, High Counselor Zaxnar began, "We must reconsider our approach to human integration into galactic society." Where before there had been calls for containment and security measures, now there was cautious respect. The humans had defended the Council, the very body that had been debating whether they represented a threat. Dr. Viridian was asked to present updated recommendations. "My analysis remains unchanged," she stated. "Humans demonstrate unprecedented adaptive capacity in response to existential threats. However, I believe we have been asking the wrong question." She displayed a new model, showing potential collaborative outcomes rather than conflict scenarios. The true question isn't how to contain this human trait, but how to channel it. Throughout their history, humans have applied this same adaptive mechanism to non-military challenges, disease, environmental disasters, resource scarcity. Their capacity to transform threats into opportunities could be invaluable against the many challenges facing our galactic community. She concluded with a bold recommendation. Rather than containing human expansion, we should consider strategic integration, directing their unique capabilities toward our most intractable problems. As the Council deliberated, Ambassador Kalen approached Dr. Viridian once more. "Your discovery may have changed humanity's place in the galaxy," he said. "Perhaps," she replied, her chromatophores shifting thoughtfully. "But I wonder if we've truly grasped what it means." "What do you mean?" "Our historical models track the rise and fall of civilizations across millennia. We've documented thousands of species that reached the stars, only to eventually decline and fade." Her eyes fixed on Kalen. "But a species that transforms every defeat into advancement may never decline at all." Kalen considered this. "That's not how we see ourselves. We're just survivors." "For now," Viridian replied. "But the galaxy has never encountered anything like you before. A species that has never truly lost a war may one day become something none of us can predict." Outside the council chamber viewport, the galaxy spread out in all its vast complexity. Thousands of civilizations rising and falling in predictable patterns across cosmic time. But now, a new pattern had emerged, one that followed different rules entirely. Humanity had arrived on the galactic stage, and Dr. Viridian's discovery had ensured they would never again be underestimated.